Welcome to Black Nouveau. This is our edition for September. I'm Joanne Williams. Milwaukee Film's Black Lens Group is sponsoring its first Minority Health Film Festival. It will offer 4 days of movies, community forums, and a health fair. We'll talk with Black Lens co-programmer Gerard Blanks. Dr. Eve Hall, president of the Milwaukee Urban League, joins us to talk about the organization's Century of Service to Milwaukee. We'll review the No Studios Dance Fest, which featured local performers and the Alvin Ailey 2 troupe. You know, September is back to school time. We'll talk with MPS Superintendent Dr. Keith Posley about his priorities for the new school year. But first, Alexandria Mason introduces us to Jacarrie Carr. He's an artist who wants to ensure that kids are ready to look and perform their best. His nonprofit Kicks4Kids uses shoe art to change the world 2 feet at a time.
Remember to let it dry because it's going to take some time.
Each artist has a canvas.
I've been painting shoes for a year. You get to spot them and then paint all of them like different colors.
So I started off just washing tennis shoes in the washing machine and just painting them with markers. And over time, I went from just washing the shoes, trying to give the shoes away, to actually getting the shoes and customizing the shoes and then giving them away. So I really learned this by myself.
Jacarrie Carr's Kicks and Conversations workshop teaches young people to create their own walking masterpieces.
I like it because I can give away shoes, I can like create my own. And like if I want to start like a brand, I can like start getting it out there.
I feel like this workshop, it's like opening you up to different type of techniques and different type of ways to paint, and just it's very artistic and it lets you express how you feel.
Shoes always meant the world to me because in order to do anything, you kind of need shoes. Like, man, I would love for people to look at my feet and be like, wow, you know, this guy wears nice shoes, but at the same time, my shoes kind of tell a story.
The customized shoes tell a story of giving back and changing the world 2 feet at a time.
Jacarrie Kicks4Kids started about 6 years ago. My mom owns a daycare, so we had this little guy. He was 10 years old, maybe 9 or 10, and he was the middle kid out of 10. And he wanted to play basketball. I noticed his shoes had like really big holes in them. Like, so every time he'd go for a layup, his shoe would kind of open up and I could see his sock. And I just felt bad for him because I know growing up, people used to talk about me because I used to have to wear the same uniform and pants a couple days out the week, or the same shoes a couple days out the week.
Jacarrie took to social media asking if anyone had a pair they'd be willing to donate. After tracking down a pair for the young boy, Jacarrie felt like he'd found his mission.
So it's so many different things that these kids are going through for them to have like a really nice pair of shoes that people are looking at in awe and like, oh my goodness, it makes the kids feel good, and then it leads to them doing different things.
The UW-Milwaukee alum is sharing with his students that mission of helping others.
And it's funny because as we're painting shoes and they come out really good, the kids are like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to wear these. And I'm letting them know, like, you know, we're going to give those out to the community. In the last 6 years, we have gave about 6,000 pair of shoes away.
All summer long, the kids paint and prep for the annual Back to School drive, where the creations will be given away alongside other donated items. Jacarrie says he wants to alleviate the burden of back to school prep for lower income families.
So essentially at our events, you come and you get the whole package. You get shoes that are fresh and new. You get book bags with supplies, so you're stocked up for school and you can focus on your education. And then you get the haircuts and the hairdo, so you're always looking good. So basically you're looking amazing starting the school year.
Demetria Starling is a mother of 3 and says back to school season can be hard for a lot of working families.
There's a lot of struggling moms, such as myself, you know, and we need this kind of help. You know, so it's very important, and then it brings the community together.
I feel like it's important to give back because there's a lot of kids that don't have the needs and necessities to be able to have good things and to have cool things. So I feel like it's just like makes you feel good to be able to wear some nicer shoes.
We are helping and saving lives by giving back, so we're changing the world 2 feet at a time.
Dr. Keith Posley is starting his second year as superintendent of MPS school system. He joins us to talk about the new school year. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So when you were here a year ago, you talked about the points you wanted to focus on, and academic success was one of them. How did that go?
Academic achievement and accountability was number one, and I can truly say that we made some progress. However, there is still yet for a progress to be made. We're still working. It's work in development.
So you said progress needs to be made. Do you have numbers?
No, I don't. We have not received our numbers from the state as of yet, final numbers, but all of the numbers and assessments that we are looking at is trending in the right direction. However, we have some where we were kind of flat. However, there are some places that we're seeing some upticks and know that we're moving in the right direction. The things that we're doing are working.
What can parents and students expect new this year?
Well, we rolled out last year the Ambitious Instruction Plan, and we're calling it this year Ambitious Instruction 2.0. And basically, it's a piece around math, reading, and writing, core instructions, and making sure that all of our young people are learning at high levels. One of the things that is new that we have out there this year, have on the website where parents can go on the website and see exactly what they can do and expect from their young person at the first grade level, second grade level, whatever grade that they may be in the area of math, reading, and writing. And there are tools that they can use to work with their young person at home and know what they should know and be able to do at that particular grade level. So we have that available for families to observe and see.
We always talk about the achievement gap being the largest between blacks and whites. What is the district doing to address that?
We're doing a number of different things. One of the things that I'm doing is, making sure that our staff is well prepared to meet those needs for our young people. And what we're doing with that particular piece is I have instituted professional development around developing our staff and making sure all of our teachers are ready and on target for what they need in order to be successful in the classroom. We've provided safety nets for our young people, small group instructions, making sure that we are looking at individual plans for each one of our young people to make sure that they know exactly what's expected, what they need to work on, and how they can get better so that they can become self-directed learners.
So what specifically are you doing with teachers to make sure that they're the best they could be?
One of the things that we're doing with teachers is this whole thing around restorative practices, looking at the work that they're doing on a daily basis, looking at the things that we need to focus on. Some of the things that we're focusing on is small group dynamics, looking at the ambitious instruction plan, looking at how do we tease out each one of those strands. We have taken those, like the area of reading, we have looked at the area of reading and we have pulled out 5 strands that we know that works, like comprehension, decoding, fluency, vocabulary acquisition, and like phonemic awareness skills. And we are honing in on those skills with our teachers on a daily basis. Professional development is ongoing around that. We're having professional development throughout the school day. At the end of the school day with the teacher, we have it through in the afternoon through MPSU. So we are doing all of those kinds of things to get our hands around what teachers need to know and be able to do in order to support young people and the safety nets that is needed for our young people to be successful.
One thing you mentioned was returning 89 cents on every dollar back into the school district, which came to around $11.6 million or something like that. What were you able to do with that money to improve academic achievement?
Some of the things we were able to do is to increase the number of teachers, which reduced class sizes. We were also able to look at the area of art, music, and physical education, library media specialists, looking at bringing in additional staff, because I'm a firm believer that children learn best in small groups, and also it helps us to create small group dynamics and build those safety nets that young people need on a daily basis.
Well, one thing we talked about again last year was kids can't learn if they're not in school, and MPS, it seemed like it had a problem with making sure that kids showed up to school ready to ready to learn and showing up to school on time. How are you addressing that?
We kicked off last year an attendance campaign, and everything we do is around attendance. Our goal in the district is 95% attendance, and we're pushing. We have, attend today, achieve tomorrow hashtag. Every single day counts, and we're making it clear to our families what's expected, making it clear to our students what's expected, and our staff. And we're working with young people, and everywhere we see young people around the city, we're asking, why are you not in school? And if you're going to be successful, you have to be in school. And that's truly where the rubber meets the road, in that classroom. And we need to make sure that if I can get children in school on a daily basis, I can change the academic trajectory that we have in this district.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. This discussion will continue online at milwaukeepbs.org.
There was this incredible gee whiz effect. You mean adverse childhood experiences cause heart disease and lung disease and liver and cancer?
Exposure to trauma affects children's developing brains. The impact is on your behavior, it's on your heart, it's on your DNA. Like, how do you deal with all that?
That was a clip from Resilience, one of the movies in Milwaukee Film's Minority Health Film Festival. It's a 4-day event, September 12th through 15th, and features 8 movies and lots of community discussions. Gerard Blanks, co-programmer for Black Lens, talks to us about the film festival. Gerard, how'd you come up with the subject of health as a film festival theme?
So I was trying to think of what was going to be the next big sort of event that Black Lens did during the year. And to be honest, I just was messing around online trying to think of some themes and topics, and health was one of those that just came up. And health is something that I think is really important, especially in African-American communities and communities of color in general, in part because there's a history, a sort of stigma around people of color dealing with issues of health, be it physical or mental health, right? And so I started to think, this could be sort of a cool idea, a way to engage the communities of color in Milwaukee around the idea of mental and physical health.
Now, these aren't technical movies, right? They're not clinical films, are they?
No. So part of the process at Milwaukee Film is we have to actually watch the films, and we watch sometimes hundreds of films to find 8. And we went through a lot of really not bad. All the films were good, but some of them just weren't appropriate for our audience because, we're trying to entertain as well as educate. And we want you to come out and see a film that is engaging and not a film that, you watched when you were, 12 years old in middle school. These are interesting films.
And where are we going to see them?
At the Oriental Theater, which is our theater. I hope everyone knows that. Everyone should know that by now, that Milwaukee Film, we run the Oriental Theater. So that is where all of the films will take place.
And the discussions, where will they be held?
So here's what's interesting. We have post-screening discussions that will take place in the theater, but then we have a full slate of panels and discussions, forums that take place at our resource fair, which is going to be at Kenilworth Square, which is about a block away from the Oriental Theater. And those will take place on Saturday and Sunday.
All right, well, thank you very much. And we will continue our discussion on online, so join us there.
We don't just bring technique and dance to the stage, we also bring ourselves, we also bring emotion, we also bring, the passion and hunger and love that we have for dance. I'm Kyle H. Martin, and I'm a dancer with Ailey too. I started dancing in the church. I was inspired by my sister who danced in the church as well, and I was inspired by her movement, how she moved the other people in the church and how she moved me, and I've always wanted to do that, so that's how I really got started, yeah.
Alvin Ailey's second troupe recently performed in Milwaukee for No Studio's first ever Dance Fest. Several local companies joined the Ailey troupe on the Dance Fest stage, including Kothi Dance Company, Wolf Studios, and Milwaukee Irish Dance.
So we just sent a note out to about 14 different dance companies, and we got 6 immediate responses from folks that happen to be available. What was very fortunate for us was that the mix of companies that were able to participate is just an incredibly eclectic, balanced and reflective mix of companies, and I think really showcases the best that Milwaukee has to offer.
Wolf Studios founder Wanye Frazier had only opened his studio 4 months prior to receiving the last-minute call to perform.
I was genuinely freaked out. I was caught off guard. It was a very big deal, and I had a very, very short amount of time to prep for it. So I had 3 weeks to put together a 10-minute piece.
The event activated a first-time partnership between No Studios and the Sherman Phoenix. Risen from the ashes of the Sherman Park uprising, the Phoenix is well known as a Central City focal point for its eateries and other shops. Co-developer Joanne Sabir says it's also a space intended for the arts.
When you look at any well, healthy, functioning community, there is a connectivity to art, to culture, to music, to theater. And we really wanted to revitalize that institution within the Sherman Park neighborhood and hope that it would be catalytic and really replicable throughout not just our city, but through the nation.
That is incredibly important to me because if we're going to do something, I want it to have maximum impact and exposure for the community. So layering that piece in is just makes the event much more worthy. It's a much more impactful event.
We have to start activating our communities. I love my downtown Milwaukee, but we have rich, vibrant spaces and communities, and this dance fest set the platform for investing in communities and having events outside of the downtown area.
I think what's really special about Milwaukee is that the market is contained enough so that you can have that level of intimacy and access to the performer and still have fantastic art happening.
Mr. Early would always say dance is for the people and should be given back to the people, so I think a lot of people should always see art and not art that's already rehearsed and refined and perfected and, you know, just there for to be seen. And I think some people don't need to necessarily be in a theater. I think a lot of people could get enjoyment from being in a different setting and viewing art.
For me, on the part of No Studios, it was really a brilliant offering in that we had local dancers. So for local dancers to be tied to, you know, or have the opportunity to perform with Alvin Ailey, it really shined a light again on the talent and the gifts that rise within Milwaukee.
So before I was even born, Ailey has been in the family. It's been something a staple for us. I did a research project for them in school. I've known about Ailey, so to be asked to perform on the same stage as them is mind-blowing. It's an opportunity that, like you said, most people can go their whole lives dancing and never get. So it's something that I feel privileged and I feel very blessed to be in a position that I can take on that.
In our school systems, we've divested from art and culture. So the more that we can infuse this in offerings and community, the more that we can reconnect to the power of the art. And it brings people together. So just on the very surface level of bringing our diverse community members together, it's a powerful point of impact where we can get beyond theoretical conversations of how do we get through these tides of segregation when we can say we can just be together. We can commit to be together in spaces that honor everyone.
The Milwaukee Urban League was there in 1919 when African Americans entered this city. We were responsible for helping with access to housing, access to jobs, access to education. We were there in 1919 and we're here today. It is the voice that has never stopped sounding about what is needed in order to have economic vibrancy across all communities.
The National Urban League was founded on September 29, 1910 in New York City. Milwaukee's Urban League was established 9 years later in 1919. We're joined now by Dr. Eve Hall, president of the Milwaukee Urban League, to talk about 100 Days, 100 Ways, their new project. Welcome.
Thank you, Joanne.
100 years, it's a long time for this organization to have been around. How did it get started?
It is, and we're proud of our legacy. So we were started in 1919 really to answer the call, like many organizations around this country, to support the Great Migration. So the 5 to 8 million that were moving up north, which included, of course, the city of Milwaukee. And so we really serve, Joanne, as that receiving organization for families and helping to be the connector for employment, for housing, access to health, supporting entrepreneurs, making sure that they were connected to the educational system, and then just providing both recreational and educational support directly from the Urban League.
I bet a lot of people don't realize how many services the Urban League started in 1919 and continue now, but a lot of people get confused between the Urban League and the NAACP. What's the difference?
Well, they do. And so the NAACP was founded in 1909, so 1 year prior to the National Urban League. And so I always use the example that with the Urban League, we were focused on the day-to-day living of African Americans. NAACP focused on policy. So, for instance, if Joanne had money to move a mile down the road in a home, but she couldn't do it because of the color of her skin, it was the NAACP they were in the courts fighting, having that battle to change policies and change laws. And that was really the difference. So one being more of a social service agency, grassroots, and NAACP really being that legislative and policy arm.
So you became president 2 years ago.
I did.
What do you think you've accomplished since then? And have you accomplished all you wanted?
Well, I'm not even close. So what I am excited about, quite frankly, is that we have really focused on raising the visibility and just the value of the Urban League. What we found is a lot of people knew about the Urban League, but they really didn't understand the history and why we are so important in terms of the historical stabilization of our families. Because when you think about it, going back to 1919, going back to 1910, if we did not have the urban leagues being those organizations to support that humongous transition, social transition that was occurring at that time in our country, we would not be where we are today.
Well, we have social transitions and things happening right now. Is the Urban League still active in all of that?
Well, we are. I mean, this is a different time. So when we think back to our early days, that was a time, quite frankly, when African Americans, we were looking to just have a regular way of living after being free labor, when you think about it, for years. And now we're at this point, at that time of saying, okay, we want to be paid, we will be paid for our work, we want to live like regular human beings and be respected in that manner. Now we're really looking at gaps. We have the opportunities in education, we have the opportunities in terms of employment, yet we have gaps in terms of how well we're doing in education, or gaps in terms of who's employed and who's not employed, or the gaps when it comes to loans so that we can purchase homes, or loans when it comes to starting businesses. So now it's really about equity.
What do you see coming up in the next 100 years? I know you have a new project you want to launch. What's the new project?
So it's two things. One is our 100 Days, 100 Ways campaign as we begin to end this year of our founding. And what we want to do is really educate the community even more on the various contributions that were made by the Urban League and the individuals who are running the Urban League. The other piece of that is our Campaign 100. I'm trying to raise $100,000, Joanne, to really match $100,000 that was donated or contributed to us as through the ball, and really use it as a grassroots effort. And so we are identifying different ways to have receptions where we have 100 attendees with hopes they will give $100. If we have 10 receptions where we've raised $10,000, that's $100,000. And my point with that is to really allow everyone to be a part of the Urban League growth. We want to do some things in terms of restoring our building, which we now own, as you know. We were just talking earlier. My predecessor left that legacy for us as a homeowner, and so now we wanted to really restore and renew our building. We're looking at different ways that we can more strategically partner with other organizations to make a difference in education and employment. At one time in our history, The Urban League did a lot by themselves. But now it's partnerships in terms of how you make a difference.
So what's most important, economics or education?
You know what? The two are connected. You cannot have one without the other. If you're not educated, you will be cheated in life because you will not be able to read, you will not be able to determine, your numbers, adding, subtracting. I mean, just the basic things in life, you have to be educated. And that will determine, as you know, how far you can go in life.
And so you're trying to get these partnerships together, you're trying to get people to donate up to $100,000. What about small donations? What about the person who says, I can give you $10?
That is wonderful. We take $10, okay? and really, when I talk about the $100, that's just at least a base, because we know oftentimes people, $100 is a lot, but we also look at people who can give $5 and $10. So we are open to any donation because everything is meaningful. When we look at our clientele, it's everyone from that individual who's really been struggling in terms of stable employment to the professional who is actually thinking about whether or not they should stay here in Milwaukee or Wisconsin because they're concerned about whether there's a glass ceiling and if there are true opportunities for them to advance.
Well, we're going to let people know what your phone number is and your website is so that if they have questions, they can get in touch with you.
Okay.
And I'm sure you will welcome any questions that people might bring to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming on Black Nouveau. Dr. Eve Hall, President of the Milwaukee Urban League.
Thank you.
Join us next month on October 3rd, 7:30 on Channel 10. We'll meet Corey Pompey, the new band director for the University of Wisconsin Marching Band. We'll have a preview of the Milwaukee Film Festival. And don't forget to check out our Black Nouveau web exclusives. You can find them online at milwaukeepds.org. And you can give us a call, 414-797-3760. Tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't, and what you would like to see on a future show. That's our program for this month. For Black Nouveau, I'm Joanne Williams. Thanks for watching.